Hello! It's funny how the people who turn your life upside down don't come with a warning label. They just show up, sometimes through someone else's front door, and you have no idea your entire world is about to shift. For me, that person was Liam. And the twist? He was dating my sister when I met him. I was home from college for winter break. Nothing fancy, just 2 weeks of sleeping in, dodging awkward family questions about my love life, and trying to avoid being dragged into my mom's Pinterest-inspired DIY projects. My sister Kayla still lived at home. She was a senior in high school, and apparently, she had a new boyfriend. "You'll meet him tonight," she said casually, tossing a handful of popcorn at me from across the couch. "He's coming for dinner." "Should I be worried?" I teased. "No, he's normal. Like, really normal. Cute too. Try not to make it weird." I rolled my eyes. "When have I ever made it weird?" She stared at me. "Remember Thanksgiving 2019? Okay, fair." I didn't expect much. Kayla's track record with guys was mostly harmless high school jocks and soft-spoken band kids. But then Liam walked through the door that night, and I forgot how to breathe. He wasn't what I pictured. He was tall, lean, and confident in that low-key way that doesn't need to shout for attention. Brown hair that curled just slightly at the edges, deep-set eyes that flicked up to meet mine without hesitation, and a smirk that I swear was aimed straight at me. "You must be Ben," he said, stepping forward to shake my hand. I nodded, a little too slowly. "Yeah, that's me." His grip was firm, warm, way too warm for a casual handshake. We sat through dinner with the usual family chatter, but I couldn't focus on any of it. I kept glancing at him, watching how he leaned toward Kayla when she spoke, how his smile dimpled only on the left side, how his laughter came so easily. And then, every so often, I'd catch him glancing back at me. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs for water and nearly jumped out of my skin when I saw Liam sitting in the dark, nursing a Coke, and scrolling through his phone on the living room couch. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked without looking up. "Yeah." "You?" he shrugged. "I'm not great at sleeping in other people's houses." I hovered in the doorway. "Want some company?" He looked up at me, just for a second too long. "Sure." I sat down at the far end of the couch, trying to pretend like my heart wasn't hammering. He handed me the Coke. I took a sip. "Kayla's really into you," I said, surprising even myself. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, she's great." "But?" He gave a small, unreadable smile. "You ask a lot of questions for a guy the first just met." I shrugged. "I get that a lot." There was a pause, a silence that stretched out, not awkward, but charged. "You're different than I expected," he said finally. "Good different or bad different?" He didn't answer right away. "Still deciding." I laughed softly. "Fair." We sat there for a while, just the two of us, in a house full of people asleep and unaware that something was shifting under their roof. I didn't know what it was yet. I didn't know where it was going, but I knew it started that night. The next morning, I woke up questioning if I'd imagined the whole thing, that late-night conversation, the weird tension, the way he'd looked at me. Maybe I was reading into it. Maybe it was just me projecting. God knows I'd done that before, mistaking casual friendliness for something more, hoping when I shouldn't. But then, I walked into the kitchen, and there he was, barefoot, in sweatpants, his hair messier than it had been the night before. He was pouring cereal into a bowl like he lived there, like he belonged. "You're up," he said, glancing at me over his shoulder. "Yeah," I said, rubbing my eyes. "Didn't sleep much," he smirked. "Me neither." Kayla breezed in a minute later, kissing him on the cheek and complaining about some group project drama. I sat at the table and tried to pretend I wasn't hyper-aware of every movement he made, the way he leaned on the counter, the way his shirt rode up just slightly when he reached for something on the top shelf, the way his eyes met mine when she wasn't looking. I needed air. Over the next few days, I kept telling myself to chill. He was Kayla's boyfriend. End of story. But it was hard to ignore the looks, the casual touches, The conversations that always seemed to end in this weird, charged silence. On Wednesday, my parents went to some holiday party and left us to fend for ourselves. Kayla had plans with her friends and convinced Liam to hang back and bond with my brother. She winked at me when she said it. "Don't corrupt him," she joked, putting on her coat. "I'll try," Liam said, throwing me a glance. The second she was gone, the air shifted. We ended up in the living room again, this time playing Mario Kart and pretending neither of us noticed how close we were sitting. He beat me the first 2 rounds, then I started actually trying and leveled the playing field. After an hour, I leaned back, tossing the controller onto the floor. "I think I've earned your respect," I said. "You've earned something," he replied, eyes still on the screen. I looked at him. "What does that mean?" He didn't answer right away. Then, without looking at me, he said, "You ever get that feeling that you're walking a really thin line?" My pulse kicked up. "Yeah," I said slowly. "I know that feeling." Silence. And then he turned to face me, his expression unreadable. "I think I like talking to you too much." I swallowed hard. "Is that a problem?" "I don't know," he said. "Is it?" There was a long beat where neither of us moved. My heart felt like it was going to pound through my ribs. Then, out of nowhere, he laughed, short and nervous, and stood up. "I should get some air," he muttered, already heading toward the front door. Without thinking, I followed. Outside, the cold hit us instantly. We stood on the porch, our breath visible in the winter night. He leaned against the railing. "I'm not trying to mess with you." "I didn't say you were." He looked over at me. "But you feel it too, right?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He looked down at his hands, his jaw working like he was chewing on 100 thoughts at once. "I've never done this before," he said quietly. "Done what?" Questioned who I am. Felt this, off balance. We stood there for a long time in the cold, neither of us moving. The street was quiet. The only sound was the distant hum of traffic and the faint rustling of wind through bare trees. And then he said it. "I shouldn't want this." "But you do?" He looked up at me, and in his eyes was a mix of fear, frustration, and something else. Something I didn't dare name. "Yeah," he whispered. We didn't talk after that. Not for the rest of the night. Liam went inside first. I stayed on the porch for a while, letting the cold sting my skin, trying to make sense of everything. When I finally came back in, the lights were off in the living room. His stuff was still there, his shoes by the door, but his door, the guest room across the hall from mine, was closed. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, heart still racing, stomach tight. Part of me wanted to go to his door. Part of me wanted to pretend it never happened. But the biggest part, the one I kept trying to silence, was terrified that whatever this was, it was already out of my control. The next morning, Kayla was back in her usual whirlwind form, talking about some TikTok drama, asking if we wanted to go see a movie later. Liam and I both nodded, avoiding each other's eyes like we'd rehearsed it. At the theater, I sat in the back row, while Kayla insisted on sitting up front. Because the sound's better. Liam ended up next to me. It wasn't planned. But the minute the lights dimmed, I could feel the heat of his body, the subtle tension in the air between us. About halfway through the movie, our elbows touched. He didn't move. Neither did I. And then his pinky brushed against mine. For the next 10 minutes, that was all I could think about. The soft press of skin against skin. The kind of touch that felt louder than any kiss. The kind that screamed everything without saying a word. When the credits rolled, he stood up fast and walked out ahead of us. Kayla didn't seem to notice. That night, he knocked on my door. Softly. Once. I hesitated before answering. He looked like he'd just stepped out of a storm. Messy hair, wide eyes, nervous as hell. "Can we talk?" he asked. I stepped aside. He walked in, We stood there, in the middle of my room, both of us silent. The tension was thick, like neither of us could breathe properly. "I don't know what I'm doing," he said finally. "I really don't." "Then why are you here?" He ran a hand through his hair. "Because not doing anything is driving me crazy." He looked up at me, his eyes raw and open in a way I hadn't seen before. "I like her," he said. "I do. But with you," he trailed off. "With me what?" He swallowed. "With you, it feels like I can't hide." I stared at him, my heart pounding in my ears. "Then don't." And before I could overthink it, I stepped closer. He didn't move away. I kissed him. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't music swelling or the world fading out. It was desperate, clumsy, filled with confusion and heat and everything we hadn't said. And he kissed me back, hard. When we pulled apart, his breathing was shallow. "Shit," he muttered. "What are we doing?" I didn't have an answer. He sat on the edge of my bed, head in his hands. I stayed standing, watching the rise and fall of his shoulders. "This isn't just a phase for me," I said. "In case you're wondering." He looked up. I wasn't. Silence again. Then he said, "I need time. I need to figure this out. But I don't want to stop talking to you." I nodded. Okay. We didn't touch again that night, but something between us had shifted, and there was no going back. The next week was a masterclass in pretending nothing had happened. Liam still came around, still dated my sister, still sat next to me on the couch during movie nights, laughed at my stupid jokes, and helped wash dishes after dinner like he was just part of the family. But something was different now. Every glance held weight. Every moment alone felt like a countdown. We were like magnets trying not to snap together. The space between us buzzed, always. I'd catch him watching me when Kayla wasn't looking, and I'd lie awake at night, remembering the feel of his mouth on mine, wondering what the hell we were doing. Then came New Year's Eve. My parents were out at some grown-up dinner party, and Kayla had gotten invited to a house party with her friends. She tried to convince Liam to go with her, but he passed. "Not really my scene," he said. She pouted. "You sure?" He nodded. "I'll hang back with Ben. We'll probably watch a movie or something." My stomach flipped. Kayla kissed him on the cheek and turned to me. "Don't let him get too drunk. He's a lightweight." "I heard that," Liam called after her as she left. And just like that, it was just us. We didn't say much at first. Just opened a bottle of wine we weren't technically supposed to have, and flipped through Netflix until we landed on something dumb and loud enough to fill the silence. Half an hour in, I realized I hadn't registered a single scene. Liam was sitting next to me again, closer than usual. His knee kept bumping mine. "I've been going crazy," he said suddenly, voice quiet. I muted the TV. "Yeah?" "I can't stop thinking about that night." I didn't say anything. He turned to face me. "I'm not trying to be a shitty person. I don't want to hurt her." "You think I do?" "No," he said quickly. "That's not what I meant. It's just, everything with you feels different." That word again. Different. I wanted to be angry, but I wasn't. I was just tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of guilt. "I don't know what you want from me, Liam," I said. He looked at me like I just hit him. "I don't either. I just know I don't want this to stop." And then he kissed me again, this time slower, more certain. And I let him. His hands found my waist, mine tangled in his hair. We didn't speak. There was no point. Everything was in the way we touched, the way we leaned into each other like we were trying to make up for every minute we'd wasted, pretending this wasn't real. When we pulled apart, our foreheads stayed pressed together. "I shouldn't be here," he whispered, "but you are." And then he stayed the night. We didn't go all the way. It wasn't like that. We just lay in my bed, limbs tangled, breathing in sync, like we'd done this 100 times before. "I'm scared," he admitted, his voice muffled against my shoulder. "Me too," I said, because I knew this couldn't last. We were playing with fire. and it was only a matter of time before someone got burned. Liam left before sunrise. I woke up to an empty bed, the faint scent of his cologne still clinging to my pillow. For a second, I thought I'd dreamed the whole thing, but the wrinkle in the sheets where he'd lain and the ache in my chest told me otherwise. He texted me later that morning. "We need to talk." Later, alone. That was it. No emojis, no explanation, just the weight of 7 words that hung over the rest of my day like a storm cloud. Kayla came home that afternoon, buzzing from whatever high school drama she'd escaped. She flopped onto the couch next to me, chatting about the party, laughing about something one of her friends had done. I smiled and nodded, but my stomach was in knots. Then Liam showed up. He kissed her on the cheek, hugged my mom, made polite small talk with my dad. Just like always, I kept waiting for him to slip, to glance at me too long, to say something that didn't quite fit. But he was perfect. Too perfect. Later, when no one was looking, he passed by me in the hallway and whispered, "Basement. 10 minutes." I waited 9, because I couldn't sit still any longer. He was already down there, pacing. "What are we doing?" he asked the second I stepped inside. "What is this?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I can't stop thinking about you." He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. "I can't keep sneaking around," he said. "It's not fair, to her or to you. So what do you want to do?" He looked up at me, his expression torn. "I think I have to end it." "With her?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah. I can't be with her and feel the way I do when I'm around you." Something inside me clenched. Relief? Guilt? Both. "I don't know what happens after that," he continued. "I don't know if I'm ready to be anything, but I know I want to figure it out. With you." I sat on the edge of the old futon against the basement wall. "This is going to hurt her." "I know," he said, sitting beside me, "but it'll hurt more if I lie." We didn't kiss. We didn't touch. We just sat there, side by side, both of us knowing the next 24 hours were going to change everything. The next morning, I heard it. The shouting. It started upstairs, muffled but unmistakable. My name, his name, accusations. Cracks in the silence of our house that had never echoed like that before. I stayed in my room. Cowardly, maybe, but I knew I wasn't the one who should explain it. Liam left before I came down. Kayla was in the kitchen, eyes red, face set in that cold, blank way she gets when she's trying not to fall apart. "I don't want to talk about it," she said when I tried to speak. "Okay," I whispered. But she looked at me. And she knew. She didn't say it, but her silence screamed. She knew. Kayla didn't talk to me for 3 days. No snide comments. No sarcastic texts. No dramatic slamming of doors. Just silence. And for her, that was worse than yelling. It was cold, calculated. A freeze out that made the entire house feel like it had lost its heartbeat. I stayed out of her way, tried not to make it worse. Ate my meals in my room, kept my headphones on, waited for the explosion that never came. Liam didn't text, didn't call. I figured he was giving her space, maybe giving himself space too. I didn't know. I didn't want to guess. Then on the 4th night, my phone buzzed. "Liam, can you meet me?" Same place as last time. The basement. I slipped down the stairs, heart pounding, every step sounding louder than it should. He was there, sitting on the edge of the futon like before. His hair looked messier, eyes more tired, like he hadn't slept since everything blew up. "I told her the truth," he said. "I figured. She's not okay, but she'll be okay." I nodded, unsure if I should feel relieved or sick to my stomach. Probably both. I didn't tell her about us. Not everything, just that I had feelings I couldn't ignore, that it wasn't about her, that I needed to figure some stuff out. "And what did she say?" "She told me to leave," he said. So I did. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he asked, "Do you regret it?" "What?" "That night. Us." I looked at him. "No." He nodded slowly, like he needed to hear it, even if he didn't totally believe it. "Do you?" I asked. "No," he said quickly, "not even a little. But I hate that I hurt her." "She deserved honesty," I said. "We both did." "I know." He reached out, just slightly, brushing his fingers against mine. "What now?" I asked. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I don't want to run from this." I didn't say anything. I just let our hands rest together, warm and hesitant. When he finally leaned in, the kiss wasn't desperate or rushed. It was quiet, careful, like we were both trying to memorize the moment. When we pulled apart, he didn't look scared anymore. "I want to try," he said, "even if it's messy. Even if we don't have it all figured out yet." "Okay," I whispered. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something settle inside me. Not certainty, not peace, but a beginning. Trying turned out to be harder than we thought. Liam didn't magically become my boyfriend overnight. We didn't post photos. We didn't hold hands in public. We didn't talk about it much, not at first. He was still figuring himself out, and I was trying not to push, but he kept showing up. He'd text me late at night, ask to hang out, stop by with takeout when he knew I was home alone. We'd talk about nothing, movies, music, old memories, and sometimes we talk about us. "I think I've always known," he told me once, sitting on the floor of my room with his back against the bed. "There were signs. I just ignored them," I nodded. "Me too. Except I didn't ignore them. I just learned how to hide." He looked at me, his expression soft. "You ever wish things had gone differently?" I thought about Kayla, about the hurt in her eyes that day in the kitchen, about how she still hadn't said more than a few words to me since it happened. "Yeah," I said, "but I don't wish I never met you." Winter turned to spring, and slowly things shifted. Liam came out to a few close friends. Not everything, just enough to stop feeling like he was living two lives. He told his parents he was dating someone, and when they asked who, he didn't lie. They were surprised, he said afterward, but not shocked. Kayla thawed eventually. One afternoon, I came home and found her sitting on the back steps, staring out at the yard. "Hey," she said without turning. "Hey." A long pause. "Are you happy?" she asked. The question caught me off guard. I sat beside her. "I think I'm getting there." She nodded. "Good. That's all I really wanted to know." We didn't hug, didn't cry, but when she bumped her shoulder against mine, I knew we'd be okay. Eventually, Liam and I had our first real date in the most low-key way possible. Burgers and fries at a diner just outside town. We sat in a corner booth, pretending the other people there weren't looking at us, and when he reached for my hand across the table, I didn't pull away. "I'm still scared," he admitted, fingers tightening around mine. "Me too," I said, "but I'm not going anywhere." Neither was he, and maybe we didn't have all the answers yet. Maybe we'd mess it up a few times before we got it right, but we had something real, something honest, and for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. It's strange how normal everything starts to feel, even when it began in chaos. A few months passed. The dust settled. Liam got a new job at a different school across town. We didn't define things in public, but we also didn't hide, at least not in the same way. Sometimes he'd come over after work and fall asleep with his head on my chest, exhausted and quietly content. Other times we'd spend whole weekends apart, texting here and there, checking in but giving each other space. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. The best part was the little things. The way he'd make me coffee without asking. The way he'd sing under his breath while folding laundry. The way he looked at me when I wasn't paying attention, like he was still amazed I was real. Kayla didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. We were careful but not invisible, and every once in a while I'd catch her watching us with this complicated look. One part curiosity, one part forgiveness, one part something I still couldn't name. "I'm not mad anymore," she said one night, out of the blue, while we were in the kitchen loading the dishwasher. I looked up. "No?" She shook her head. "I was mad at both of you, but mostly at how blindsided I felt. It sucked. But I think it would have hurt worse if I found out you were lying to me." I nodded. "We never wanted to hurt you." "I know," she said. "And maybe it'll always be a little weird. But he was always more yours than mine." That line stuck with me. A few weeks later, Liam asked if I wanted to come with him to his cousin's wedding. Out of town, out in the open, his family, his world. "You don't have to," he said quickly. "It's just, I want you there." I said yes. And standing beside him that weekend, watching his hand rest lightly on my lower back during dinner, seeing the way his eyes softened every time they met mine, I realized something. We weren't a secret anymore. We were still learning, still unsteady at times, but we were something real. Something good. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't hiding in the basement. I wasn't sneaking glances across the couch. I was in it. With him. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.